Hey guys, today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to share with you 17 ways to fail as an actor. That's right, 17 things you should not do. Now, my reasoning for this is humans, we innately look out for the negative, we look out for the bad things. So, by having a list of 17 things you should not do, you're going to be better versed for when they show up to you on your acting journey so that you can look out for them. And by doing that, you're automatically going to be doing better. So, hey guys, my name is Hans Christopher. I am an actor, coach, and creator of the Working Actor series. If you haven't downloaded the 3-step memorization guide, do it. You can get it at the link below. It's completely free. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying this stuff. And I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. With that, let's dive in. So, number one, the first thing to do to fail as an actor is compare yourself to others. I've talked to you guys about this many times. Only compare yourself to who you were yesterday. But the first way to fail is to compare you to your friend on Instagram, to the people you see that are out there, and even worse, to actors that are in your category. I do a lot of work in getting you to find actors that are similar to you, maybe a few rungs above you. But if you start comparing yourself to what they're doing, it is going to be a rough life, and it's going to be one of the quickest ways that you're going to exit this industry. So, number two, I will do it tomorrow. That is something that I am so guilty of. I've always been guilty of this. I think it's one of the reasons why I've established some routines and these processes to make sure I do things like put a class up live so that I have to do it. Because I have a perfectionist thing. I have a thing that says, you know what, I have to get these things right before I do it. So I'll do it tomorrow. In this industry, that is the quickest way to failure. You do it right now, do it today, put yourself on tape today, start today, learn from the mistakes, learn from the failures. That is such a vital and important lesson. Number three, judge yourself, your work, and others. One of my favorite coaches is John Markland of the Markland Studios. And he has a great quote. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was something like, judgment is like a gun. And when you point it at others, you point it at yourself double as much. So basically, anytime you're using judgment on anyone else, you're going to be doing that to your inner critic is going to be doing that to yourself, double that. Every tape, every time you do something, every time you have a failure. So you've got to learn to turn that voice off. So judging yourself is going to lead to failure and others. Number four, take class, but do nothing else. This is something that I learned the hard way. I think I spent 5 or 6 years taking class because I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was good enough to audition yet. I didn't think I was good enough to be an actor yet. So what I did was I took class. I did what everyone else was doing who was beginners in acting, and I just took class. I would rehearse and I would take class, but I didn't do anything else. If you are going to take a class, it is vital and imperative that you are also putting yourself up on tape, and if you can be, shooting content, getting on set, and figuring out how to incorporate what you're learning in class into your self-tape process, into your being on set. Because if you aren't doing that, if you aren't figuring out what you're learning in class and then trying to implement it into your art, into your acting on screen, or in auditions, you have the opportunity to audition at home and start implementing some of that stuff. It's not going to carry over. You're not, in 2 years, you are not going to remember those things you're learning in class and be able to take them in. So you must be using those lessons you're learning and implementing them, putting them into your self-tapes, putting them into shooting, student films, your own content, whatever you can be doing. Number five. Number five, take advice from green actors or actors who haven't booked. Now, I am a huge fan of you can get information from anywhere. So this isn't to say to shut people out completely, but just take it with a grain of salt. If you are a new actor and you are surrounded by new actors, that isn't the place where you want to learn how to get into the club. When I use that club analogy, you want to be hearing from people who are in the club. You want to be hearing from people who own the club. You want to be hearing from people from all walks of life to figure out different ways to be able to get in. So that's number 5. Number 6, Surround yourself with those who make you feel guilty about following your dream. Whether it's your family members, your partner, your loved one, your friends. If you have people in your life that are critical of your dream or you going after your dreams, then you either need to get rid of them, or if you can't, if it's your partner, if it's your wife, if it's your family, you have to try and enroll them into your dream. You have to try and get them to be on your side. And if it means saying, look, I'm going to spend the next 2 years doing everything I can on this, and I need your support. And after that, I promise you I will do this other thing. If that's what it takes, then you have to do that. But you've got to enroll that person, because if you're living with somebody who's critical of you and your art and your skills, that voice is going to be constant, and it's going to eat at you, and it's going to erode your ability to show up as an artist, your creativity, and what you do. Number 7, fail once and quit forever. Now, this is something that I also tended to do, and I didn't quit forever, but I would have big failures. I would fall on my face. I would fuck up, and then I would run away from it for a long time. I would have to go back to the drawing room and be like, oh God, I can't do that again. I never want to face that again. And it took a long time for me to start to embrace those fuck ups and ultimately be okay with those fuck ups. What you end up finding is when you start to do that lessons learned folder that I talked about, or that notepad, you start to seek those lessons. So you almost start to go into class being like, how am I going to fuck up today? Let's just go. And what's so funny is when you walk into class with that mentality, that's when you end up doing amazing work, because you don't care about judgment. You don't care about fucking up. And if you can get yourself in that place, holy shit, you're going to be on fire. Where are we at? Number eight. Think that the film industry is fair. Think that the film industry is fair, because it is not. And if you think it's fair, then every single day you are going to be clutching your pearls, and you're going to be upset, and you're going to be pissed off, and you're going to be complaining, and it just feeds this negative spiral loop. It's not fair, but life's not fair, and you've just got to figure out how you can do your best in this situation. If you continue to work on yourself and you continue to work on your steps and the things you need to do, you're going to open up opportunities for yourself, and other people are going to now look at you and be like, wait, that's not fair. It's just how the world works. Once you're in the club, once you're in at CAA, once you start booking films, they reuse you. Sometimes those opportunities don't even go out to actors who have lesser agencies. But if you can get in the door and you can start doing the things that make you get in the club, then you're going to be getting those advantages too. So number 9, blame your circumstances and complain. What I mean by this is, perfect. I'm just going to give you an example for this one, because I was guilty of this one fairly recently, and I'm sure a lot of other actors are out there doing this. When it comes to casting and casting workshops or teaching actors, the pay-to-play stuff that's happening, I was so upset and so angry at this, and I found myself harboring on it and building up a little bit of resentment. And not all casting are like this. And even in that, I know actors who coach and work with one-on-one and work with some of these places. Some of these casting directors teach some amazing, amazing lessons. But what I was doing was I was turning it into this thing that just didn't help me. I was turning it into something that I was complaining about, and I was turning it into a negative thing, and then it was living inside of me, instead of seeing it for the opportunity it is. If I was able to step back from it and say, okay, there are people who are trying to make money too, but what they're doing is actually opening the door for opportunity. I'm gonna change it for you in this way. Now that you guys have talked about your materials and finding your superpowers and aligning your headshots and your reel and all your stuff together, if you create a good package, a strong package, and you have some strong self-tapes, and then you save your money to go and do a general, because that's what you can do, and that's what I would advise. Instead of going to one of these on-camera workshops, I would pay to do a general with them. Show them your material, ask them what they think, build a relationship with them, and just ask them about themselves. You just want to form a connection with them, and if you have your materials right and your package right, you can now literally pay for a general, which really doesn't happen much anymore. It's an opportunity, It favors people with money, unfortunately, but it looks like that's what we're going to have to do. You're going to have to get money to be able to do that once your game and once your stuff material is at a place that you can pitch. But instead of being bitter, like I was, you can see it for the opportunity that it is. It can open up doors for me to do what I want to do. It's just a shift of perspective. So that was number 9. Number 9. I hope that answered that. Number 10, wait to be seen. This is also something that I think all of these I was guilty of at some point in my life, which is why some of these came about. But waiting to be seen by castings, by agents, just posting on your Instagram and expecting other people to see you or look at you is a recipe for failure in this industry. You've got to create your voice. One of my favorite quotes is find your voice, speak your truth, roar. Actually, I don't even know if it's a quote. I think I put some stuff together. But find your voice, speak your truth, and then roar. And that roar part to me is when your materials are tight and you start putting up good auditions and you start to have some footage that it speaks to you and your performances are starting to show up. You're starting to show up truthfully on tape. Then it's time to roar. Then it is time to showcase yourself. Then it is time to shout and let people know who you are. Do not wait around for people to see you. You've got to go out and get them. And hopefully what we do is we get a team around you that is behind you and supports you in the same way. Number 11, value others' opinions over your own. Other actors' opinions over your own. Other teachers' opinions over your own. Yes, teachers will know and teach you some amazing things, but you know your gut. You have to know your truth and what's working for you and what's not. And if you're staying in a class that's not making you feel good, even though the teacher's a great teacher and everybody has said such amazing things, then you need to listen to your gut and you need to go and do what's right for you. Maybe going and shooting student films like it was for me, will be the thing that will shift things for you. But you have to be able to listen to yourself and not to the people around you. You take in what they say, you see what works, like I said, pick it up, put it down, but ultimately you have to decide what's working for you and what's not working for you. Number 12 on how to fail as an actor. Avoid uncomfortable roles. I hear this a lot from actors I know. I've never understood this because I've always done the opposite. So I guess I am avoiding the uncomfortable role, whereas the uncomfortable role for me is what's closest to me. But for many people, I hear so much of, I don't want to play that because I'm not, so a lot of the roles I go out for, serial killers, racists, whatever. And so they come and they're like, I just don't like playing those roles. And for me, it's just an opportunity. It's an opportunity to jump into a world and tell a story that needs to be shared about the history of this country, about what's going on, and you have the opportunity to serve that story. So that's never been really a problem for me in that sense. But that's something that I hear a lot, and those roles that are uncomfortable, those roles that seem too far out there, are going to be the things that stretch you, that push you past your comfort zone. And that's what you need to be facilitating. There'll be another one that goes to this, that kind of speaks to this as well. Number 13. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, actually. Be okay with good. You've heard the quote, good is the enemy of great. It's especially true in this industry. Let me give you an example. I use the bar a lot because I bartended for 14, 15 years. As a bartender, I would work at clubs, and there would be a ton of people that would come in. I would be 4 or 5 deep, hundreds of people, if not thousands a night, that would come through, and I would serve them. And every once in a while, you'd get somebody who was an asshole, like an asshole, bad drunk. They did something wrong. They for whatever reason, they did something awful. Now, I'm a pretty optimistic guy, and I wouldn't take things too harsh. But guess what would happen? A year, 2 years later, they would come up to the bar, And I would look at them, and in my head, I'd be like, huh, I know this person from somewhere. I'm not sure why. And then they would talk, and I would have a conversation with them, and I wouldn't remember who they were until maybe they did something bad again or something else. But what that showed me, and I think what so many actors are afraid of, is falling on their face in front of casting, because casting will then put you in a negative folder and blacklist you forever. No, the thing that is the worst is to just be good, because good isn't going to get you the callback. It isn't going to get you in the final rounds. It's not going to get them talking about you. They're going to be like, oh, okay, that was good enough. But the second you walk out that door, you will be forgotten. And I would rather fall on my face and be remembered for going way too far, for taking insane choices, for doing something that was completely wrong but was different, than to be remembered as good, because you're not going to be remembered as good. And you want to be remembered. That is the most important thing. You want to be remembered. Now, obviously, don't do something bad or awful or mean, or I'm talking about in your choices and what you do. I'm not talking about making them remember you for something bad you did. But that's a huge lesson. I think it's something that you can also take into your classes too. So many times we go to our classes and we seek good job, attaboys, from the teachers and from the other classmates. And you can develop being good at what you do and doing the same thing because you get that attaboy and you get that you're good or you're so good or you're so talented, but it'll prevent you from expanding. It'll prevent you from growing if you just try to stay safe and try to stay good. So that's 13. 14, wait for the perfect conditions. I am so guilty of this. This is why this is in here. And so many things that I did, I can't send out those emails yet because I don't have my new headshot. I can't do this thing because I didn't get this. There will never be perfect conditions. So waiting for perfect conditions. Now sometimes there are things you do have to wait for sure. But you have to check in with yourself and you have to be careful. Am I doing this as a stalling technique, or is this something that I truly have to wait for, right? And only you are going to be able to be the judge of that. Number 15, prioritize looking good over honing your craft. Now, what I mean by this is people can get into my class and it can do some amazing things, but then what can happen, and this doesn't happen to too many actors because most actors really want to work on their craft. It's usually the opposite way around. But what can happen sometimes is you then become obsessed with making your image and making yourself look a certain way, look professional, look like everything's right, and it doesn't align to where your talent is. Maybe you start to not work on your talent enough. And you want to make sure that as you're working on your business side of it, as you're working on your materials, you're continuing to up-level your skill set, and your mindset. But that's really important. And if you just this also goes into what I'll find is that pitching to agents and managers, actors will oversell themselves because they think that that's what the manager wants or the agent wants. So they'll put all these things on the table of, look at all these amazing things I did. And unfortunately, what it does is it sets the bar at such an unrealistic expectation that you have nowhere to go but down once you're with that agent or manager. You want to make them see who you are and what you're going to do and how you're going to go into work for them. And if you can do that, that's where you start a good relationship. That's where you start a real relationship off. And then any bookings or anything else that comes after that is only a bonus, if that makes sense. What do we do? Good, part is good over honing your craft. Number 16, avoid working on your weaknesses. We talked about this a lot. I gave you the chess analogy. But the quickest way for growth is to identify where you are weakest and work on that skill, work on that thing. Identify where you're weakest and work on that thing for 3 months, and it will take you to another level. And then the final thing, 17, is overextending yourself. I'm going to give you a quote that I learned from a productivity. It was a group that I did maybe about 10 years ago, but it was one of the most important lessons I learned. And it was this: an overcommitted person is an undercommitted person. If you have your foot in this on-camera class and this in this class and doing UCB and then doing a business class and working on accents, you're gonna burn out, and I see it over and over again. And B, you can't give your full attention to any one of those things. It is far, far better to spend the next 3 months or 6 months in one class, focusing on one thing, using what you've learned and learned about yourself, and then at the end of that 3 months or 6 months, evaluate, okay, what did this do for me? What am I getting? Do I still need to get more from this? But using it and really focusing everything you have on that one class, focusing on one skill for 3 to 6 months. Maybe it's your voice, maybe it's an accent, maybe it's something else, but maybe it's improv, but making sure you're being very specific and targeted with what you're doing. Because the second you start grabbing and doing everything at once, A, you're going to burn out, and B, when you get on tape and on camera, you're going to have so many voices in your head, that director, that you're not going to be able to use what you're learning. You're not going to be able to just show up and create and have fun. It's just going to be too much. That's why I love that book, Inner Game of Tennis, because it's a book not on tennis, it's a book on performance. And the worst thing you can do when you perform, is have too many voices in your head. You want to free those voices and get to a place of just straight play, being in the moment, flow state. So that is the 17 do not do's, or things to do if you would like to fail as an actor. I'm sure there's other things that are out there. I'm sure there'll be tons more than I think of. But those are some things. And the reason why I said that, I'll say it again, is now that you've heard some of these things, our brain is hardwired for looking out for bad things. You're just going to be more aware of it when you hear it in that capacity. And if you can at least avoid doing these things, seeing it when it comes up and saying, oh, wait, there's that thing, and then avoiding it, you're actually going to be on a path towards success. You're going to be doing a lot of things right. So that is the 17 ways to fail. Thank you guys so much. Let's open it up for questions. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If one of these 17 stood out to you, I'd love to hear what it was. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time.